Welcome to AMIcast, podcast about Amiga computers. I'm your host, Krzysztof Radzikowski, but call me Krzysztof or Radzik. Welcome, and now we have the next episode of AMIcast, number 15. And this episode is about the web browser. So my guest is the author of the NetSurf for Amiga NG and AmigaOS, and for the Classic as well. So, hi, how are you?
Hello, I'm good, thank you.
Very nice. Okay, so we started right now. So let's talk about something easy. So about the Amiga, how you started with this, and and then why you go to NG stuff, and so your background.
Okay, well, I started with the Amiga probably about 1992, I think it probably was. When my dad bought an A600 after he'd been looking at Amigas for quite a long time, and eventually he bought one. I think it was about a month before the price dropped by £100. We don't like to talk about that. So obviously I kind of used it quite a bit. I think he probably got fed up with me using it, and we previously had a Spectrum Plus 3, which became mine, and he kind of encouraged me to sell that and buy an A500. So I got my own one. He got his A600 back. I always preferred the A600, but it wasn't technically mine. So I obviously used that for a lot of games and a little bit of development, mostly in AMOS. And I think some of my AMOS stuff is floating around online somewhere. And in 1997, or around about 1997, so quite late after Commodore had gone under, I managed to find a cheap X-Display A1200 at the back of a local electronics shop. Well, it was in their stockroom. And I was using that kind of constantly until probably 2005 or so, desperately clinging onto it, hoping it would keep running.
Wow!
Until the next generation came out.
Yeah,
and it still works. The hard drives were replaced about 3 times.
So your next generation story is completely connected with the AmigaOS 4, or you have tried MorphOS, Aeros, and some stuff like this?
I have briefly tried out. Well, I tried out MorphOS at an Amiga show. It was the World of Amiga Southeast. That must have been about 98, 99, something like that. I tried it out there, got a t-shirt, so I tried it, didn't really get on with it. And more recently, every now and then I have a go at Aeros. Don't really get on with that much either. I think I did port something little over to it. Can't remember now. Yeah, I'm sure I've ported something little over to it, but the problem I have mainly with Aeros is because it's been built for so many different process architectures. If you're writing software for it, you have to compile it quite a few times for every architecture, or at least you did at the time. I don't know whether that's changed, and it runs 68K code natively on all platforms now. I've got no idea. I haven't really been keeping up with it too much. So my focus has been OS4 from when it was going to be an A1200. The Amiga one, when that was going to be an A1200 expansion with OS4 on it, and then obviously that evolved. You probably know the story better than I do about what happened there. But here in the UK, in Peterborough, we had a big bash event around about 2004, I think it was. It was before OS4 had been fully released. And I went up to that and tried it out, one of the early versions. And it's basically OS 3.9, but better, faster. It's just so snappy, and it's exactly what I was used to. So I kind of fell a bit in love with that, and bought one of the very expensive first iTech Amiga ones. In fact, it wasn't one of the very first ones. It was after iTech stopped selling them directly, but it was fairly early on. It was a G4. I only actually sold that this year. It was just lying around in the box for the last few years, not being used. Because I now have a SAM 440, which actually I only own because there was a pot of web browser money for a bounty. I think it was possibly for porting Firefox initially.
Yeah, the Timberwolf or whatever.
Could have been, yeah. But the project ended up being abandoned. Whatever one, I think it must have been prior to Timberwolf. The project was abandoned, and the money ended up being split out between me, Jörg Stromer, who did the original OWB port, and I have a feeling it went to someone else as well. I think there are 3 people, but my pot of cash, I said, don't send me the money, buy me a SAM 440 and send me that instead, because otherwise it will just fester somewhere, and it won't get used on Amiga stuff. So I send me a computer, and that's working really well. It's a lot more stable than my old Amiga 1 ever was. Notoriously unreliable. My one was actually pretty good. I didn't have massive problems with it, but every now and then it would just crash for no reason, or there was various kind of small problems with it. USB, so I didn't have any of the fixes on it. So the USB didn't work very well. But yeah, SAM 440 is noticeably slower, but it's very, very reliable. It's one of the EPs, so I don't think I can put one of the decent graphics cards in, so yeah, it's just got the onboard. So it seems to work okay.
And how it's really slow, because everybody says that SAM is not so, especially this first version, not the next one, is really slow, and this is it's hard to use it every day, or it's acceptable?
I don't notice any speed problems. I think maybe when I first got it, it was slower, but there have been some firmware updates, and there's a CPU bytecode update or something that I've put on it as well, and there's a little tweaking utility which still seems to do something. And with all that, and with all the OS4 updates, it progressively has got faster. It's definitely slower than my old Amiga 1 G4 was, but it's not so slow that you can't use it. It will definitely be faster than one of the old PPC boards.
Of course.
And yeah, NetSurf runs around it, which is part of the reason why I use NetSurf rather than Odyssey.
Okay.
Because Odyssey is a bit of a slouch on there.
Yeah, I think I have the Pegasus here, G4, so I see that NetSurf is faster than Odyssey, but to this we will come, and between maybe I will ask you, do you have the plans about, for example, X5000 or the X5000 or something like this, or maybe the new chip board from Aeon, Tabor or whatever it's called. What do you think about this coming hardware?
The Tabor I know nothing about. I'm not sure anyone does really. I've not even read a lot about it, other than it exists or it will exist. So yeah, I can't really form an opinion on that yet. The X5000 I think is probably a little bit expensive. I don't understand why it is, but yeah, I'm not sure I want to spend that sort of money on a new Amiga when the extra speed doesn't really benefit me that much, given what I'm using it for. So I've got no particular plans to upgrade.
Okay,
but
so
something cheaper and faster. Then maybe I will. What I really want is a little Raspberry Pi type device which runs OS4. That would be fantastic, and something that price range. I think that's never going to happen.
But you are a developer, so you are more experienced than I am, of course, because I'm only user. Do you think it is still enough power in PowerPC, for example, the SAM, to optimize the software to use it more every day, or to, because now the world is running on quite fast Intels, and the PowerPC is I don't know if the X5000 is maybe the last PowerPC home computer. No?
I think I like the PowerPC, but as you say, it's getting phased out. So Microsoft and Sony don't use PowerPC now for their consoles, as they did in the last gen. And it's, I think, IBM for their big power boxes, which used to use PowerPC, and I think they still do PowerPC. I read that they were migrating over to Little Engine to make porting software easier and keeping up to date, and I think ultimately that will probably go Intel. I'm not sure whether going Intel is a very good idea. When Apple managed it, they had to go a bit overkill on the Intel processors to match what they had before with PowerPC. So, but they are cheap, they are fast. So it's kind of gauging whether it's worth it. There's a lot of effort on the OS side, and also you're throwing away most of your software unless you can get a decent speed PowerPC emulator running on it, like we have at the moment with this 68K emulator, Petunia. I think it's possibly better to go ARM than it is to go Intel. And that's probably a better fit, and that will work also in big endian mode, which should make porting the OS over to it a bit easier.
But with PowerPC, I think the most connected question is this big endian issues, because like in Odyssey or WebKit, the work is stop it or drop it, because it's almost not possible to fix the WebKit, because WebKit developers don't care about PowerPC anymore. I asked them. So if you want to bring the new WebKit on PowerPC, like one guy doing it for the old Macs, so you must fix. You cannot follow the latest updates or something like this. And what do you think about this big endian issues? Because maybe for NetSurf it will be problem in future as well, yeah? Because you are more or less porting this from the official, I don't know, repositories or something, yeah?
Yes. Okay, so a bit background. The Odyssey problem is something, I don't think anyone knows exactly what the problem is, otherwise it would have been fixed, but it's something relating to JavaScript, which doesn't work in big endian mode anymore. And as you say, the developers don't care because they don't use anything which is running big engine, so they don't notice. NetSurf, the JavaScript engine that we're using at the moment we were using SpiderMonkey, but it is absolutely appalling. It's virtually impossible to port. It's so tied in with Firefox that you can't really decouple new versions very easily, and you can't port them without porting a lot of other stuff as well. So that got ditched. We were stuck at, I think, version 1.7 I got running. 1.8 I had no hope in doing, and I think the Riscos and the IQ versions had the same problem, because anything past 1.7 just would not work. So we've moved over to using Ducktape, which is a new JavaScript engine. And if you look at the website, it's ducktape.org, there's a massive list of supported platforms, and it includes PowerPC, and it includes 68K as well. Okay. So I think it's probably unlikely that there will be any engine problems. I think the developer there, he's a very responsive guy, and I think he wants to make it as portable as possible. So I think it's unlikely we get any engine problems of that sort with it.
It sounds good. At last, because I think most of the guys use the Odyssey, to be honest, because now we can maybe clear it, because I'm using mostly Odyssey as well, because some pages are working better with Odyssey. The problem probably is with this JavaScript or Java, how it's called.
Yes.
Yeah, so how it will be, this means what you said, it will be better for us in the future.
The JavaScript will definitely improve in NetSurf. At the moment it's very basic bindings on it. I'm not sure the events are even working properly yet, so if you try and click on a button that's got a JavaScript code attached to it, I don't think that even is working yet. But obviously all that needs to be worked on. The thing that's kind of stalled JavaScript a little bit is that a lot of JavaScript actually modifies the pages. So when you run it, it will modify the pages. If you looked at Twitter or Facebook, you can see when you scroll down, it adds more stuff, and things move around. There's loads of websites which do that sort of thing now. And you can't do that without a dynamic layout engine, which NetSurf at the moment does not have. It's planned for version 4.0, but I don't know sort of the timescales for that. I don't think there's anything that's been worked on towards it yet. It might be a basic kind of library framework, but no real code. So yeah, that's quite a bit of work to rip out the current layout engine and replace it with a new one, which will then tie in with the JavaScript, so that can tell it to move elements around and they're update on the screen.
Okay. One maybe question about this. So your version of NetSurf is the same revision like on other operating system, because on AmigaOS is 3.6, I think.
Yes, the current release. So the latest release version is 3.5. So there are test versions out which are labelled 3.6, obviously newer. The code on the AmigaOS 4 version is identical to that on all other operating systems. It's fully merged back into the trunk. So any changes which are made in the core will work. Well, as I say they work, they might not work. I mean, they'll be used straight away in the OS 4 version. My front end is all in the same repository. So any core changes which affect the front end gets updated by whoever's changed the core. Occasionally they don't get around to the Amiga front end before I notice that something's broken, and I end up fixing it myself. But usually whoever's modified the core modify the front ends. There's a continuous integration system which runs on a server somewhere, and that will build versions for AmigaOS, Linux. I think it builds a Windows version as well, and an Atari version.
Okay.
And possibly some others, I can't remember. Every time there's a commit, so every time someone changes something, it goes through and it builds it for all these platforms, and whoever's made the change can have a look at the log, make sure it's still building for everything in case they've changed something that's affected one of the front ends and it's made it fail. So if you go onto the test builds on the NetSurf website and look at the AmigaOS builds, you'll see that they're exactly the same revision numbers as the ones for RISCOS and all the other platforms it targets. So it's bang up to date, and it's an officially supported platform for NetSurf.
Very nice. I'm very happy with that, because it's not common now in Amiga world that we have the same level or revision of software compared to the mainstream operating system. So this is good.
Yes, I do notice sometimes when people port things, and I'm guilty of it myself actually, they port something and then they've just got their local changes and they've released it to AmiNet or OS Full Depot, and then that's the last you see of it. And the source code doesn't get pushed back upstream. So next time, new version, someone else comes along and download the code, and they have to start again from scratch, basically, which is not good, and it's why we're so far behind. I think in some certain software, it kind of drifts away and just makes it more and more difficult to port things.
And here is maybe the good question. Are you alone on this work, or you have some help from other developers, other guys, or you have some beta testers for how it's done and how you started? What was the idea to port it or to support the NetSurf for AmigaOS?
Well, initially, it was a post on AmigaWorld.net, because at the time everyone was looking for a new web browser, because iBrowse doesn't support CSS. So most websites at the time websites were starting to use CSS at the time, I think. So a lot of things just weren't displaying properly. And I think there might have been more than one thread that I read about NetSurf, and I think the first time I read it, I had to look at it and thought, that doesn't look very portable, it's very RISCOS-centric, which it's pretty much as difficult as porting something from Windows or some other windowed operating system software. So yeah, I discounted it. And then I saw another thread later, maybe a year or so later, and I'd forgotten. I think I'd forgotten I'd looked at it. But I looked at it again and thought, this looks a bit familiar. And had a look at the code again. And it was split out into different front ends. So there's a GTK for Linux front end, there's a RISCOS one, there's a debug front end. So I thought, I might actually be able to do something with this. So I had a go at building it with the debug front end, just to see whether it would be easy to build. There's no kind of major problems with it, and it kind of worked fairly straight away. I had a few sort of minor problems, but I got some output out of it straight away. And then it kind of just escalated from there, and I thought, well, I may as well I've gotten this far. It doesn't look like anyone else is going to do anything. I may as well try and port it properly. Yeah, so he's just me doing the OS4 front end. Some of the core developers, as I said before, if they make change in the core, they will update the front ends. But it's rare for them to add things to the front end. In fact, I'm not sure they ever have for any of the front ends other than like GTK and Riscos.
Okay, and this is not too much work for the one guy? You don't need the help or something like this?
Initially, it was quite a lot of work to get started. Now it's fairly stable. There's not an awful lot I need to do. I've got quite a long to-do list of things I should be doing, but there's nothing major really that needs doing. I'm just tweaking things. It would be nice for some help if someone wants to add some features or fix the menus, which I keep meaning to fix, and just general bug fixing. Yeah, it'd be nice to have some help, but at the moment I don't have any for OS4.
Okay, so of course with this is connected maybe other questions, because I always say that it will be nice to have the one team, for example, like the example was always Odyssey, to have one team to make the, I will say, Odyssey and then port it for the free operating system. Do you think it could be nice to have something like a team for NetSurf? And if this is possible, because your NetSurf is based on reaction, yeah, so it's completely connected with AmigaOS 4 or yes. 3.9 or 3.5. It is possible to, I don't know, jump to Magic User Interface, or because I think the MorphOS community is a little bit now suffering as well with the problem of web browsers. Yes,
changing over to MUI is going to be quite a big job, because I have completely written it based around reaction. So that's definitely not something I'd want to undertake. If someone does do that, then I'd rather it was abstracted in some way, so you could build the Amiga front end with reaction, or you could build it with MUI. And the frame buffer front end, which I'm sure we'll mention later, has a similar thing where you can build it with SDL, or you can build it with the Linux frame buffer kind of sub front end for it as well. So that sort of thing, I think, would probably be the way around that, and then people can use whichever one they like best. It does, however, mean that you've got a little bit more maintenance, because if you change something in one of the front ends, then you need to change it in the other one as well. So there's a little bit more work potentially, but if there's a team of you working on it, then overall it's probably not really going to make too much of a problem. It would be quite nice for it to be over all three platforms, or four platforms, I guess.
Yeah, because now your NetSurf is also available for classic Amiga, and why you did it? Because the one guy is already porting the NetSurf, but this not based on reaction, but based, I don't know, on something else.
Yeah, that's the frame buffer front end that I mentioned a minute ago.
Okay.
So the current OS to use the official name of it, which is NetSurf 68K. There's some controversy over the name and what's been done, but basically that version is the frame buffer front end,
okay,
and the STL kind of sub front end. So it uses STL. So it's basically constructing the entire browser and the user interface using STL rather than using Amiga gadgets. So it's just like you're clicking on a picture effectively, which has been constructed itself rather than having the native gadgets.
Okay, so it's not so hard to backport the OS4 NetSurf to the older systems.
In theory, it should have been quite easy to backport the OS4 front end to OS3. However, I think part of the problem was because I use Reaction, a lot of people don't like it or don't understand it. I don't understand MUI, so I know where they're coming from. And I think that was a little bit of a stumbling block. There was the NetSurf core developers didn't particularly like the frame buffer usage for AmigaOS 3, so they wanted the my front end to be used in OS 3 as well. John Mark, who's one of the core developers, actually did the initial work in making a tool chain, which is like a compilation environment for NetSurf for 68K, and also fixing up the my code so it would build under that environment. It would work, and as I found out when I started working on backporting it myself after I'd got bored of waiting for someone else to I discovered that the version of GCC that was actually in that tool chain just did not build code that worked anyway. So that was the first stumbling point I had. That the tool chain just wouldn't build it. Wouldn't build an executable which even ran at all. I was expecting something which didn't work, but not something which wouldn't run. And then I fixed that up, and then I got it running fairly quickly, up to the point where we would try and display this splash screen, and that was a bit of a stumbling block as well, because there was some optimization problem with intuition related call, which basically meant it was just optimizing everything away. So it wasn't this one instruction, it was just not doing anything. So as soon as it tried to do anything with Reaction, it would crash. So that took me a while to work through. And then once I'd done that, I basically had a largely working browser already. So it wasn't an awful lot of work to do it. I would rather that someone else had done it, but yeah, I ended up doing it myself because people seemed to be interested. There's one very, very cool guy who was definitely interested, and some other people seemed to be half interested. So yeah, so I did it and thought if I prove it works, then maybe somebody will take it off me and they'll fix it up properly, fix all the bugs, and get it working nicely. But that hasn't happened yet. There's a couple of people that are now building it themselves and looking at problems. The JavaScript doesn't work on it at the moment at all. So they're having a look at that, but I'm not sure they'll fix it, and I don't really know how to fix it either.
Okay.
So yeah, that might need someone with some 68K debugging knowledge to have a look at and try and figure out what's going on.
Okay, and because I think the 68K NetSurf is more focused on 060 processor or maybe Vampire. And what do you think about the Vampire? Because now it's very exciting, started or is quite popular, or the hype is big like this. And what do you think about this, maybe? And at the end of all, do we need the modern browser, or on the classic OS?
Well, I think there's definitely an appetite for a modern browser, purely because iBrowse now with CSS being used so much, you can't use iBrowse very effectively on a lot of sites because it's basically just shows up as a big list of text, so you can't really tell what's going on. My focus when I ported NetSurf back to OS 3 was that it should work, not necessarily that it'll work very well, but it should work on an 020 or 030 with AGA. That was my philosophy, and if it works on anything faster, then obviously it'll work better. If it works on RTG, then it will look nicer, but it should at least work on, or attempt to work on a low-end A1200, A4000, given enough memory. The Vampire, there's a few people that have been running NetSurf on the Vampire. I think there's some graphical glitches, but other than that, as far as I understand it, it's working. And yeah, I've not seen one running, but I understand they're quite fast and yeah, they look quite good.
Yeah, the price to the power is quite okay, and I think everybody are waiting now for FPU implementation in Vampire. But one more question about development, the 68K. Do you have the contact with the author of this other NetSurf, or you can work together, or you can exchange your experience? It could be helpful for the OS 3 version, or maybe could be helpful for OS 4 version as well.
Yeah, well, certainly any version which goes on to my OS 3 version ends up in the OS 4 version, because it's literally the same code base. There's quite a few places where things are commented out for OS 3 and we've got different code for OS 4, or vice versa. But it is pretty much the same. I try to keep it the same as much as possible. Arta, I have spoken to. He's taken bits of my code for his frame buffer version, and he's contributed some fixes for frame buffer. Again, it mostly to do with engineless, I think. Back to NetSurf repository. But he doesn't seem interested in running a reaction version, so I can't. Not my job to convince him otherwise, really. But he's had plenty of opportunity to try and backport the OS 4 one. I've now got it in a state where it compiles and runs. So if he's still not interested in this, what would a lot to do about that? And he just to keep doing his version. There is some confusion because there are quite a lot of versions of NetSurf out there now for the Amiga. Because the frame buffer one, there's at least two different versions of that, because there's an AGA version and one for RTG.
Yep.
And then obviously there's my one based on reaction.
Yeah, it's hard to get clear when you go to Aminet, and when you search, then you have a lot of options.
Yes, yeah, there's quite a few options on there. There's an old MUI build as well for Morphos, which is so out of date that if someone, they can probably use it, but if they wanted to update the code, then they'd be starting again from scratch anyway. And then on OS 4, there's my reaction build, but there's also one which runs under AMIcast, which is the GTK build. So that exists there. So it can get a bit confusing when someone mentions NetSurf and never entirely sure which version they're talking about. So it would be nice to kind of trim that down and just have one version which works everywhere.
Yeah.
One version which which at least is built off the same front end.
It will be nice to have something. Can you tell me if you must change something in code, because it's hard to support some web pages like YouTube or Google or Blogger from Google, because for example Blogger, I cannot log in on the NetSurf, and this is connected with something wrong with the engine, or because the Google always is changing something.
It's likely because Google are always changing things. I think the Google login hasn't worked properly on NetSurf for a while. I think if you're already logged in, it was okay. But if you logged out and then tried to log back in again, it wouldn't work. I haven't tried it recently to see whether that is still a problem. But I'm sure a year or so ago when I tried logging in, I was having problems with it. But I think it's because these logon pages tend to quite often now use JavaScript. I don't know whether it's a security thing or trying to stop spammers and bots logging in or what. But yeah, it can cause some problems, unfortunately.
Okay, but I think it will be better, like you say. It is work in progress, everything here. There may be one question about the as well NetSurf or something like this, about security, because I heard that some guys say the AmigaOS is quite secure because we don't have this not funny thing like I don't know, the keyloggers or something like this. From your knowledge, can you say it is secure to use, for example, NetSurf and the online banking pages or something like this?
As far as I'm aware, it is secure. I do see the occasional thing about security problems with NetSurf, and they get fixed fairly quickly. But I think I've only ever seen 2 of those. And as long as you're using recent builds, it's got recent OpenSSL built into it and the recent curl, because they quite often have vulnerabilities. But as long as you've got recent build, it'll have recent versions of those anyway. It should be secure.
Very nice. This is good.
So it's because we're running on Amiga and on PowerPC, then some of these vulnerabilities aren't really relevant anyway, because most of them do code execution. And unless they know you're going to be running on a PowerPC, they're going to be probably sticking Intel code in there, and it's going to try and run it, and it will just crash rather than steal your information.
This is nice. So the PowerPC has some advantage.
Yes, yeah. They call it security through obscurity.
Do you think this? Because I think I have I have more questions about NetSurf for sure, but before next one, do you think, for example, this security of PowerPC can be the way to grow the AmigaOS 4? And what do you think about the actual our situation? Because we are so small, we don't have so much developers, so the market is not so powerful. You cannot sell the software, or it's hard to get the new guys here to our community. Do you think can be something done with this, or maybe this security stuff can be used to promote AmigaOS?
I'm not well. The problem is, once it becomes more popular, then the security issues will then become more of an issue. So if it is secure, absolutely fine. But I suspect there are vulnerabilities in AmigaOS that nobody's noticed, because nobody's gone looking for them. And if you had a lot all connected and it became the #1 platform in the world, then I think people would then start hacking and finding problems that we just didn't know about. So I don't know whether security is the answer really to growing it. Maybe it would help, but I think probably what we need is some sort of more mass market initiative. So something that people can buy. So IPTV streaming is quite big now, so if you could do a little IPTV device which ran OS4 and PowerPC and get it underneath everyone's TV, then maybe that would then grow out the platform and people could develop IPTV related apps for it, and then from there maybe you can go on and sell them a full computer. I don't know, but something like that is probably the way to grow it.
And this is somehow connected with NetSurf as well. In the future, do you think it will be possible, for example, to use something like Spotify on the web, or some, I don't know, Netflix or this options, because it is somehow connected with Internet of Things, like it's I think called, and for me as an end user, I want to have the Amiga NG with quite modern and updated browser that I can do as much as I can on my Amiga, not on, for example, my Mac. Now, it is possible to in future to have something like this for Amiga, like for example Spotify or this stuff.
I think
on the web, of course, using the web browser, not applications.
I think there was a project to port Spotify over to the Amiga, the standalone application at one point, but that fell through as far as I know. But yeah, concerning the web browser, then everything now is going HTML5, so it's all very standards based, rather than before we had the problem that things would be needing Flash Player or Java, or Silverlight if you were really desperate. But now it's all HTML5. And then there's definitely a possibility to build a web browser that does support those things. NetSurf is, well, it's not there yet, and I think it will take a long time to get to that point. But it does have a HTML5 parser, so that's I think it's based on a slightly out of date HTML5 standard now, but that bit's kind of there. And then obviously JavaScript's a big part of HTML5, so that's been worked on. And you need the dynamic layout engine to do anything useful with that. So that's certainly in the plan for version 4. And then video streaming, which could be a big sticking point. But OWB managed it, so in theory, it should be doing with NetSurf.
Okay, good. And this 4 version of NetSurf, can you predict it when it happened?
No, I've tried to predict these things before, and it's not easy to predict at all, because I don't know what people are going to work on, and it depends whether the core developers. I don't really know much about the internals of web browsers, so the core of NetSurf, which does all the layouting and all the fun stuff, I don't really fully understand how that works. I've picked up bits, but yeah, it's not something that I can help with. So it's a case of waiting for someone else to do it. And there's a guy who does all the layout stuff, and I'm guessing he hasn't had time to work on the dynamic layout engine yet, because it has been talked about for quite a while. Yeah, so it's just a case of waiting. That's to be done, really.
Okay, and with the NetSurf and with your work and the official NetSurf, I will say that this repository, can we somehow support you, or can we just support the whole NetSurf to bring it the faster releases or something, like to have the something new faster than slower?
Yes, well, what we really need is developers. If anyone knows how to write a web browser or knows anything about the internals of web browsers, then they'd be very useful contributing to the project. There's a public bug tracker that anyone can look at and find bugs, and the recommendation is, if you want to help with NetSurf, if you look through the bug tracker and find a bug and fix it, and send the patch to the NetSurf developer mailing list, and kind of get yourself in that way. So commit a few fixes and then work on something a bit bigger.
Okay.
That's what I can say, really. And if anyone knows anything about reaction programming AmigaOS, then it would be very useful for some help on the front end side as well, especially for OS 3.
Okay.
I have a limited amount of interest in, which is why I've got as far basically as I can get, reasonably. So it works, but it's quite buggy. So
need polish.
Someone to have a look at that and polish it up, fix the bugs.
Okay, and the question is another maybe one or somehow connected. Have you some support from community? Have you some donation, or maybe do you consider to make something, if this is possible, to make the NetSurf like iBrowse distribution? So the new revision come and the user should or must pay some money, maybe not so big, but it can give you something. You can buy the beer from this or something like this.
Well, NetSurf is GPL, so I can't sell it even if I wanted to. I wouldn't want to sell it anyway, really. I don't think the Amiga community is anyway big enough for that to be worthwhile. And also, although I have done quite a lot of work on it on the front end, the bulk of it is the core, which I've had very, very limited dealing with, and it's other people's work. So it wouldn't feel right to me to sell it anyway, even if I could. There is a donations button somewhere on my website, and I think there's a donations button on the NetSurf website somewhere. Okay. So that's always an option, but I would rather people contributed code fixes and bug reports and helped out in that way.
This is so. This is nice because I hope somebody or even everybody can now donate you, or even donate the whole NetSurf, because I think you are probably the last chance for AmigaOS 4 to have the modern browser. And do you notice this, or did you notice this, that people are start to be, I think, more interested in NetSurf now than Odyssey, because Odyssey is somehow stopped. So theoretically for you, should be better. You should get the more users. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, and I can't say I'd particularly noticed. I know Odyssey stalled, but then it installed a while back, and there was some extra work done. Obviously, with the engine-less problems we spoke about earlier, that's obviously not helped. But I thought there was still some sort of development going on there. But if people want to use NetSurf instead, then I'm very happy with that.
Yeah, and because what you said, I think this could be nice with the special NetSurf version 4, but in community there are the people are talking that maybe it could be good again to try to port the Firefox or 10.4 Fox. This was from Mac PowerPC, or even something else. From your experience, do you think it makes sense, or maybe it's only better to try to support somehow you on your fight?
Well, I would say it's better to support me, obviously. However, the fire. This has been going on for so many years now. I was involved in one of the early ports which got. I don't think we got any code at all. We didn't get anything done. And then, obviously, more recently, there's been Timberwolf, and you've got two very, very, very good developers working on it, and they got something which worked. But if you try and use it, it's obviously not finished, and I don't know whether you could speed it up enough to make it usable. Certainly not on my hardware. I don't think it would ever really be that usable. So I'm not sure it's a very good idea to just start porting something else again.
Okay.
Every time we need something new, we simply start from scratch. As I said earlier about the porting of applications, and someone ports something, and then 2 years later, someone else has to port it again because the code hasn't been pushed back up. And if we're doing that with Firefox, then we just can be in a perpetual cycle of upgrading the amount of updates that gets.
Yeah, this is I think you have to hear right, and maybe from developer point of view, because now we are talking more maybe more widely about the Amiga. For example, LibreOffice. Probably it will be the same, because you can, or it will be ported some version, but in 2-3 years it is almost not possible to update. You must start from the scratch, or I am wrong here.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right there. It depends how many changes there are. And when you start porting, if you take your base then, and you have to work on that code base, by the time you finish porting it, and LibreOffice has been probably 3 years now, I think.
Yep.
So what you've ended up with porting is something that is already 3 years out of date. But if you try and update it to the latest one, you're going to then hit more problems because things have changed, don't then work with your changes, and you'll do it again. You're just in a perpetual cycle. There's some guy who's updating Final Writer, and I think that's probably a better approach than trying to port something new. I think at least it's not a moving target either.
I think this makes sense, because it will be a native software, but somehow, for example, the whole Qt, it's quite nice, and you can watch the YouTube through the SM Tube or something like this, for example. What do you think about something like this port? So you port the I don't know, this is the main engine. And then you can use the other stuff from the Linux, basically.
Yes, I really like the port of Qt. It is a little bit sluggish at times, but then it is kind of designed for a lot of faster platforms than we're using, so it's understandable that it can be a little bit slow. But I think the advantages of being able to port things so easily outweighs the fact it's a little bit slower. At least you can get something working, and then if you want to replace the Qt front end, if you think it's practical to do that or worthwhile, then you can do. There's a PDF viewer that I ported that I'm using all the time. I can't remember what it's called. It was QPDF view.
Yeah, this is very nice as well.
Yeah, so that's really good. But what I did, I just ported the front end. I made a few minor changes. I can't remember what the changes were now. But most of that was fairly straightforward because it was based on Qt, and the guy who ported Qt also ported the PDF library that QPDF view uses. So porting the QPDF view was really straightforward. Yeah, we can get more like that, then that's really good. But from what I experienced from trying to port some Qt applications, you tend to find that they need other dependencies as well. And then you look at those and they need other dependencies, and you think that's got a dependency on something that you just physically can't port for whatever reason. So you do still get stuck, but it definitely makes some things much easier. Okay. There was talk at one point to make Qt the official GUI for AmigaOS 4, but I'm not sure that's a good idea either. I think it's probably not really quick enough, and yeah, I think it would probably make the overall experience not great if you started porting Workbench over to it. That's nice features, but yeah, it's probably a little bit too slow to be the default.
Okay, but this is somehow some solution for some pieces of software that we need, like QPDF is quite updated and you can manage the PDFs. But maybe another question is about the in theoretically in future we hope, because I'm a little bit afraid now because we don't have any information from Hyperion side. It's completely 1 year of silence.
Yes. There was a screenshot, I think, of a possible OS 4.1 FE update.
Yeah,
that I saw posted online. But other than that, nothing. And that could have been a mock-up. I'm not sure whether that was genuine or not.
Exactly. This is only some very leaks, something like this, and in my opinion, we should have some official information in which stadium we are, or something like this, because for example the X5000 should be 1 year ago available, and nobody knows what happened now. At least we have the pre-order now option, but I would like to ask about theoretically 4.2 version of system. I suppose this new version should have the multi-core support or something like this. So when you have the more cores than now supported for developer and for the software, this could be problematic for you, or because everybody says that, no, maybe not everybody, but the people are talking that it will break the compatibility and the stuff, and what it means for you, for example, for the new NetSurf or something like this.
Well, I don't think it will affect NetSurf because it's fully single-threaded. So as far as it's concerned, if you run it, it will just run on one processor, or one processor core, sorry. And if the OS is running on one core and NetSurf ends up running on a different one, then that would have a performance benefit. But other than that, it shouldn't be noticeable. And the way they're implementing it, the way they should be implementing it, you shouldn't notice that there's any multi-core support at all, other than the fact things will be faster. You can, I believe, code things so they run on certain cores. So if you want to do multi-threading, run a task parallel on several cores to make it complete quicker. You can apparently do that sort of thing. I don't know how it works, but I don't see how it would break compatibility particularly.
Okay. And one more question about the modern features, memory protection. We don't have this in AmigaOS.
Yeah.
And how it looks from the developer point of view. From user point of view, it's not so easy to live, because sometimes you had hard reset or something like this, or so not like in main operating system. What do you think about this?
I think user wise, you'll probably see the Grim Reaper turn up if something's not supposed to do. For the developers side, well, apparently they have a version of the kernel which does implement memory protection, I have heard. Why they don't release it as a kind of a debug kernel, I don't know, because it would be incredibly useful. I think we've probably gone a bit too far now, but it would have been very useful in the earlier days of OS4 to be able to run software, newly developed software under that, to see whether it worked and see whether there were any problems. And I think it would be very useful for debugging, because if you're overwriting memory, you shouldn't be overwriting. At the moment, Grim Reaper will occasionally pick it up, but if you've got full memory protection, then it will always be picked up, and you won't be able to overwrite memory. You shouldn't be. So it would be a very useful tool for development, even if the main user kernel isn't memory protected. It would certainly be useful to be there.
Okay, let's hope 4.2 come soon. Soon is AmiWest.
Yes.
I hope we will get some information, because if not, it will be very funny. And maybe the one more question in general about the emulation of PowerPC, because now it started to be somehow popular, or this was the quite, I think, successful for Hyperion. They sold a lot of classic version, final edition. Have you used it, or what do you think about this? Because at the end of all, as you, for example, be a developer, you can work on your laptop when you are on the travel using the emulation.
I've not used it. I've used UAE in 68K form, but I've not used the new PowerPC version. I hear that it works quite well, but it's never going to be as good as real hardware, and I prefer to use real hardware where possible. But as you say, yeah, it would be useful on a laptop. It would probably speed up because I have to cross-compile NetSurf, and at the moment I'm copying the bio over to a share that I can get to from OS4, and then switching screens and running it from there. So it might be a little bit quicker to do it just under emulation. I don't know, but yeah, I'd rather test it on the real hardware, because you then see if there's any problems that aren't emulator related. Because there's always a possibility when you're emulating hardware that there's a problem with the emulation, and then you find that it works, or worse, it doesn't work under the emulator, and then you're chasing a bug round, which turns out to be the emulator rather than the actual bug in the software.
Yeah, this is true. And maybe from technical point of view, your tools for doing the development, what you are using, and maybe if someone want to start coding, programming, or whatever, developing something. Have you got some tips for this, or just simple what you are using to do it or something?
Okay, well, no, if I'm doing on under OS 4, then I am using Notepad that comes with the OS, which is not really very good for development at all. A proper C editor is better because it highlights the keywords and you can see what you're doing. But no, Notepad does the trick. I just haven't really got around to installing anything else. And then just running GCC from the command line. So it's very, very basic. For NetSurf now, because I'm cross-compiling it, I'm editing in usually in gedit, which again is not really ideal for coding because I don't think it highlights anything. But I've got Notepad plus. Yeah, sorry. My NetSurf development environment is a virtual machine running on running Linux, but my virtual machine is on a Windows host. So on the Windows host, I've got Notepad++, which is very good. So I do use that quite a lot as well. That's certainly better than Gedit. But Gedit, usually the changes I'm making, I kind of know what I'm doing anyway. So it doesn't make much difference. It's not immediately clear.
Okay, and for example, for AmigaOS 4, we're talking about 4 now, do we need some special tools, or we are missing something, or you are, as developer, is missing some I don't know, I have no idea here, but I for sure is something not okay.
Well, the memory protection would be useful, and some debugging. There are debugging tools as GDB. I think the current version doesn't work anymore, and I've never figured out how to use it anyway. My favourite debugger is the Grim Reaper, and the stack trace on that. And usually, if it crashes, and you can have a look at the stack trace, and it will point to exactly the line where the problem is, and that is fantastic. When it doesn't crash, that's when you get problems. There's a program called memguard, which I'm not sure if it still works, but that used to be quite good at making it crash when it otherwise wouldn't, because that is basically like emulating memory protection, and if it overwrites memory it shouldn't be, then memguard will cause it to crash. So that's quite good, but I'm not sure it works anymore. The last time I tried to use it, it didn't seem to do anything. And yeah, but on OS 4 it is quite good because of the Reaper. You can tell what's going on. On OS 3, I can not very often figure out why things aren't working. I need something on there to make it crash. And if you're using Forza, it points to 68K code, and I've got problems because there is ways of finding where it crashed using find hit, various versions of find hit, but they don't seem to work with the version GCC I'm using. So I build it with debugging symbols and then run GCC find hit, and it doesn't find the line. So it'd be useful for that to work as well for OS 3, because I'm largely just stumbling around in the dark. Which again is why I say if someone's got experience with 68K and actually knows how to do debugging there, then it would be very useful to have their help.
Okay, let's have a hope that somebody can help you. And other thing with this development or starting of development is connected with something like I always mention Hollywood. What do you think about this? Because theoretically from Hollywood, I heard this is easy to use because this is script language, and you can make the application for all systems. So it could be nice.
Yes, Hollywood I think is very, very good. I've not used it myself, but a few years ago, when I was having a look at it, the interface on the Amiga side, I think there's a different interface on Windows or Mac or wherever the other interface is, but the Amiga interface for it reminded me very much of an old program I used to use called Genesis, which is a Riscos software.
Okay.
It was a multimedia tool, so it's a bit like Scala.
Yeah.
And that was drag and drop, and you put things in. You can link pages to other pages, and you can, when you click on things, you can get it to play a tune or play a video or open software. And the early Hollywood user interface looked like it would be very similar to that. So that was quite good. And the fact you can compile to a variety of operating systems, I think it does Windows, Linux, Mac, obviously various flavors of Amiga. I think there's an Android player. In fact, it may even do native Android now. I can't remember. But that is very good. So you can just build it once and in a fairly simple way with your scripting, and then run it anywhere. So yeah, I very much like that. It's not exactly a tool for building a web browser in, but if you're doing simple games and utilities, and there have been quite a few that have been written in Hollywood. There's an icon editor I was using, which was written in Hollywood at one point. So it's quite good.
That's why I'm asking, because as I see, I think our community is of course divided, and maybe something like Hollywood, it is possible to make some simple games or applications, utilities, and port it for this. And do you think we have the market to make small money on Amiga? I'm talking about OS4, MorphOS, and even Classic, because I think the Classic is the most popular Amiga way. It's something like 1 to 10 when you compare the user base. Yeah.
I think if you can write something in Hollywood and make it available for all those platforms, then it's possible you could make a little bit of money out of it. Of course, the advantage of Hollywood is you can also build it for Windows and have a even more expanded market. And I think there is a game, I think it was written in Hollywood, that's on Steam, and there's an Amiga version of it and a Windows version. So that's obviously doing okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure the Amiga market on its own is really enough. If you're trying to get rich, then it's probably the wrong idea.
Yeah, I'm talking about only to get the money for a beer, for something like this, for developers, because I think everybody knows that you cannot live from the money from the Amiga, but it will be nice when you have, in my opinion, a little bit more commercial way here. That can it is nice to have, I don't know, 10 euros or pounds for something just like this.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
And the maybe last question, because I think we should start to finish our amazing interview. I learned a lot of here.
Good.
And I have big hopes about the NetSurf 4. Nice.
I'm just not sure how long you have to wait for it.
And what do you think about this Amiga now, Amiga NG now? Because we are so divided. We have the AmigaOS 4, then we have the MorphOS, and then we have the AROS. And from my point of view, or from user point of view, it is not so good, because we are we must develop, we need 3 times more developers than normally than it was before. Yeah, before this division lines or something. What do you think about this situation, and could be something somehow improved, or must be like is it?
Yeah, I'm not sure how you could improve it now, really, but certainly the split has not been good for any of the three or four platforms. Yeah, I don't know what you can do. The problem is they've split out in such a way that you can't necessarily easily port things from one to the other. It'd be useful to be able to just build one binary that runs on any of them, and in some ways you could build for OS3 and then just run that on any platform you like. But then you're wasting your PowerPC chip, and you're not using all the new features of the OS. And it's also harder to develop for OS3. You're used to OS4. You don't realise how much has actually been added, and I think people that aren't using OS4 don't realise actually how far along it has come, because it looks so similar to how it used to be. But under the hood, there's a lot of new APIs, and it is so much easier to develop for. And I'm sure the same is true for Morphos, but I don't know, because I don't write anything for it.
Yeah, but probably it's like you said, and maybe the hypothetical situation or something like this. Let's say AmigaOS 5. Maybe this is the solution for our community to jump for this Intel and to take the Linux core and base it on this, build the AmigaOS, so with the graphic user interfaces, with typical Amiga solutions, but the core of because then you don't need to make the drivers, then you don't need to the drivers. You can use the like Apple did it. Yeah. So what do you think about this?
I think that could be a way of reuniting everyone. If you have a common goal, if you get everyone together in a big room and say we're going to make AmigaOS 5, it's going to be Intel based or ARM based or whatever. So you're throwing away compatibility with the old systems, and then it would probably take quite a bit of work, but you could merge because you don't need binary compatibility, so you could merge the APIs of Morphos, AmigaOS 4, AOS, if that's got anything new, I'm not sure it has. Bring them all together and have one platform again, where you can then recompile software which used to work, or does work, on MorphOS or AmigaOS 4 to this new platform. And because you're throwing away compatibility, then as long as everyone embraces OS 5, you could potentially reunite the community. The problem is that you won't be able to run any of the old software, which could be a big problem, because as I'm sure you're aware, every year the user base gets smaller, the number of developers goes down.
Yep. This is the main problem for us, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh god. Okay, well, we'll see, maybe.
So yeah, it's possible. RISC-OS, so obviously obviously NetSurf was originally a RISC-OS browser, and it still is. But they have had a similar situation to what Amiga has, and RISC-OS got split out. So there's a version 4, which was written by somebody, and there's a version 5 that was written by somebody else. They were both based on version 3.1.1 I think it was. But version 4, version 5 diverged, so they weren't entirely compatible. And that's similar to what we've got with MorphOS and AmigaOS 4.
Yeah, exactly. At the end of all, this is nice to have the competitors here, but from other point of view, it's killing the Amiga at the end of all, because it's,
that's the main problem.
Yeah, but okay. So to be optimistic at the end, the maybe last words, like what you can advise use for the when new guy come. Should somebody start with the classic hardware, or maybe better is to focus on the NG stuff, or maybe I don't think what you said, you don't like the emulation, so I think it's not a perfect solution for you.
Yeah, I think emulation is never really a perfect solution. But if you're new, if you're completely new, then that is the cheapest option and the easiest to set up. Mm-hmm. So if you're new, you know nothing about the Amiga, then I would definitely say try it out on an emulator first, and then if you like playing the old games, then buy a classic A1200, and if you like sort of messing around with the software, then buy one of the next gen machines, X5000 or something that's a bit of a step, but yeah.
Yeah, let's hope something cheaper will come as well.
Yes, yeah. We need some cheaper hardware, because there isn't really anything anymore. I don't think A-Cube are even making anything now, are they?
Yeah,
but they still do their 460s.
Yeah, exactly. This is the silence from A-Cube is as well not so nice. I think they are somehow involved in this table or something, but I think the user base for SAM, the 460, is quite big, because it's expensive, but I think expensive in acceptable way. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it's not over. It's not overly expensive. It is affordable.
Yeah, it will be always Amiga hardware will be always more expensive than PC, because it's life.
Yes, the economies. They don't sell them, then they're going to be expensive.
Okay, good. So I think from my side is everything. I for sure I would ask you more questions, but it's over 1 hour now. So the last word from you to the community, or to your, I don't know, fans, or something like this.
I do apparently have a fan, and one of my fans, Amiga show in the UK, apparently was looking for me once when I'd wandered off. So I do have a fan out there somewhere. I just don't know who it is.
Yeah, but
yeah, I don't know what to say really, other than keep using the Amiga. Try and support it if you can.
Yeah, somehow you can always do something.
Yeah.
Okay, very nice. Thank you for your time. Enjoy your work, and please bring us the 4 version of NetSurf. Then you will have a lot of fun.
I think that'll be a few years probably before we see that.
Okay, so again, thanks, and bye bye.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
It was AmiCast, podcast for all Amiga users.